It's November. That second season. It's time for Football Friday.
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Mart. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Well, good morning to you on a Football Friday. It's November already. Where has the season gone? And yet, we're right in the shank of it. It's football season, really football season, now because it's November. There's an old saying at the Masters Golf Tournament that the Masters never starts till the back nine on Sunday. Well, in SEC football, this is the back nine on Sunday. Today on the program on Football Friday, I'll be joined by one of the veteran journalists in SEC history, a guy who's been around a long time, seen a lot of things. He's a newly appointed sports editor of the Clarion Ledger in Jackson, formerly of New Orleans, formerly of Memphis. His dad was in the league for a number of years with LSU. Ron Higgins joins momentarily. He's got some stories to tell. He'll give us a little drill down on Dan Mullen. And also, he'll be talking about what's happening in Baton Rouge this weekend, where the big, gigantic game of the century is being played, whatever you call it. So, that's going to be fun. And then, of course, Georgia-Kentucky. You think the Wildcats can finish off this Cinderella season? It's a 9-point game. Today we'll pick those games. I've got Joe Williams, the irascible one from Denver, who I picked against for 30 years, coming on the program here in a little bit. We're going to do our picks, and then the Iron Duke France Beard will join us on the back half and give us his thoughts, of his cogent thoughts for the weekend. He writes a column, of course, for us on our site, Buddy Martin Media. In case you haven't seen it, check it out. So, it is Friday. It's time for football, and it's homecoming in Gainesville. We broached the subject somewhat last night. What does it mean to you, if anything, homecoming? There's a consensus out there that maybe it doesn't quite mean what it used to mean. Maybe it's more designed for people coming from afar who come to one game. The opponent used to mean, as we talked with Mark Long last night, it used to mean a W. Florida favored, of course, in this game, so it could mean a W against Missouri, maybe. What about all the accoutrements of homecoming? Gator growl and parades and what have you. I don't take part in those things. Do you? I haven't, because from a media standpoint, I have always gone as a broadcaster, writer, etc., and not so much as a fan. Now, with the Gator Nation Kingdom, we're doing more things with the fans. We're going to try to get up there for South Carolina for a little celebration as well, tailgating. And today I've got my old school shirt on. This is about a 20-year-old T-shirt with a rip in it. One of my favorite shirts. It might have been when they first went with Nike. I don't know. It's starting at least 20 years old, maybe longer. And my sort of nondescript all-blue hat. And then my background to right here on the picture, there's a couple of books there written by friends of mine. One of them was Tim Tebow. He signed that one up in Jacksonville. And Vern Lundquist, the golden-throated broadcaster. I miss Vern, by the way. Just wrote this book, play-by-play. I just ordered it, and I'm about to read it. So we'll have some weekend reading going on there as well. So we got picks today. We've got thoughts today. We'll share those with you. And we've got a special guest coming up who will give us his thoughts on the SEC, particularly on how about LSU, Alabama, who you got. Who we got is Ron Higgins on our line, the sports editor of the Clarion Ledger, who joins the Buddy Martin Show on Football Friday as we speak. Good morning, Ron Higgins.
Good morning, buddy. How are you?
Good to hear from you, my friend. It's been a while.
Oh, yeah. A few changes here and there, but still, it's a new place to work in Jackson, Mississippi as sports editor and still writing and still in the SEC, which is, always a main goal of mine. I've been covering this league for like 40 years. Now you've covered a lot longer.
I know you have, but and you have yeah, it's great. It's really great to have somebody who knows something before 1990. I know most people think SEC started when ESPN started, but there was an SEC before that, right?
Yeah. Honestly, there was. Yeah, really. There's actually football played before 1990. They a bunch of football. So that's what kind of makes this league great. It has a great tradition, and it just didn't start when ESPN showed up or when the league went to expanded to Arkansas and South Carolina. It started long before them.
Exactly, and I told the listeners a little bit about you, and for the new people that don't know, Ryan is kind of from media royalty in the SEC. His dad was obviously well known down in Baton Rouge. And tell us a little about your history. You started watching Pistol Pete play when you were about 6 years old, and you got quite
my dad was sports major director at LSU from about 54 to 68. And so that was the time during Billy Cannon. I was too young to remember that and Pete Maravich, who I saw every home game play, and I still think is probably the greatest college basketball player I've ever seen. It was a delight to watch him play. But, you fall in love with sports if you hang around, with what my dad did. And every Sunday after a Saturday night game in Tiger Stadium, he'd have his offices in Tiger Stadium. And so on Sunday mornings, he would go in there and start writing stuff for the next week's release. And we go out the back door, my brother and I, and we go in Tiger Stadium on a Sunday after Saturday night game and kick field goals on the field and take golf carts and race through the underneath the stands and concession stands and I guess that's where I got my education, buddy. I learned every type of liquor bottle there is. I got to know Jack Daniel and
good friends, yeah.
And all those
that guy Early Times and all those people like that.
By going through the stands at Tiger Stadium, all the liquor bottles, I kind of learned.
That's funny. I know you've written about it before. Maybe one day you'll do a book. You never know. You mentioned Billy Cannon. All right. Well, I am old enough to remember it, and I actually heard it live on the radio. And I went through the archives today. And I got the audio and I got the video, but I can't play it on my system. But I have a black and white photo on the screen now of that famous Halloween night in 1959, who, for a long time it was regarded as maybe one of the top three greatest plays in history of the SEC, and maybe it still is. By comparisons, athletes and speed, today they would be a lot different. But Billy Cannon was such a legendary story. So many things said about it. I heard it live. On the call, I've heard about it, read about it, all about it. But, to set the scene, LSU was actually, I think, leading the game 7-3 at the time. But I listened to it on the radio in my car with my girlfriend as I was listening to the game. And back in those days, if you didn't hear static, you weren't listening to the radio. That's just what you had to do on AM radio. And I had is it WLW maybe? Listen to WWL, yeah. I listened to. They also had decent music. The Blue Room of the Roosevelt Hotel. I remember that. Anyway, so I've got this picture, and you can. For people now looking at the screen, they'll see. Let me get this Football Friday sign down. If they look to the top and just a little bit left, you'll see this blur figure with mud all over his uniform. You can barely see him, and the referee is trying to match him stride for stride. And there's somebody of LSU. He's already gone. But among the stories I've read over the years is that he may have had all 11 players from Ole Miss may have had a shot at him. And that's what was believed. Tell me what you know about this play.
Well, it's I guess the most iconic play in LSU history. And first of all, LSU was trailing 3-0. It was a game in which both teams. It was an old school 1950s game where it wasn't great field conditions, so both schools punted on third down a lot to try to gain field position. It's something you never see today. So on this particular punt, LSU had a rule that you don't feel the ball inside the 10-yard line. But on this play, the ball took a high bounce, and Cannon's standing at his 9-yard line, and it took a high bounce, and he just right to his hands. And so he decided, okay, I got to go. And he went up the right sideline and, immediately shook off 3 or 4 tacklers. He shook off a bunch of tacklers, and he did run through the whole defense. And he ran right past John Vaught, Ole Miss's, one of the greatest coaches in SEC history, ran right past him. And it's funny, just this year, I did a lot on that play early in the year because, of course, Billy died this summer before he had a chance to see his statue, which was outside Tiger Stadium. Now it's a great statue. It's the first statue LSU has ever put up of anybody, which is, to me, pretty amazing. They're working on one on Maravich. They have one on Bob Pettit. Shaq has one, but they never had a Billy Cannon statue. And so we did a lot of work on that play. And and it was interesting talking to the Ole Miss people about it. Robert Kayat, who was a place kicker on that team, who was also later chancellor, he said what he remembers about standing on the sideline was that he remembers that Johnny Vaught had this beautiful suit on, and when Billy Cannon ran past him, and you could see he was going for a touchdown, he remembered Johnny Vaught sinking to his knees in this beautiful suit in the mud, and he got up and he had these 2 big mud stains on his knees on this suit. The best story is, of course, Jake Gibbs, the guy who kicked the ball, who later was a catcher for the Yankees. Jake, the great backstory of this is that Billy became friends with a lot of the Ole Miss players long after that game. Billy was originally from Mississippi and moved to Louisiana, but he was great friends with all those players, especially Jake Gibbs, the punter. And so they would kid each other over the years. Jake was the last guy who had a shot at him and missed him. And Billy would always tell Jake, yeah, he goes, I put the leg on you and I took it away. And Jake would say, Billy, don't kid yourself. You were a straight line runner. But the best story out of all that is, Jake Gibbs became Ole Miss's baseball coach.
Yes.
And so every time he comes to Baton Rouge playing in Ellis Box Stadium, there's this one guy on the third base side of Ole Miss's dugout that sometime during the game, when Jake would go to the third base box, he'd have the Billy Cannon radio recording of the run. And he'd play it loud. And this guy would yell, "Catch him, Jake! Jake, catch him! Catch him! Catch him!" And finally, one time, Jake had enough. He kind of walked over to the guy and looked at him. And he looked at the guy. He said, "Hey, I'm going to let you know something." He goes, "There were 10 other SOBs who missed him before he got to me." and the crowd just broke up laughing. It was, and here's another thing I learned later on. And Rick Cleveland, the guy who used to work here in Clary Ledger, wrote about this. He found the guy that the guy claims, and Rick couldn't prove otherwise. He did research. One of the referees that ran down the sideline with him wasn't even a real referee. The guy got in the game wearing a referee outfit and sat on the bench behind Ole Miss bench during the game. And when Cannon took off, he just took off down the sideline with him. About that one.
Wow, how about that? It's amazing. Listen, I wish we could do this for the next hour, but unfortunately I got to get a couple of things in. I want to get your picks on a couple of games, okay? We know, obviously, the big one, Alabama, LSU. LSU is a big underdog in this game. A lot of points. We know the story of the quarterbacks. We know that nobody's really tested Nick Saban's team for 4 quarters, and everybody has sort of conceded that it's all Alabama all the way to the championship game. Give me your thoughts on this game and tell me where you think Alabama is ever going to be beatable.
The fun thing about this game is that there's a lot of LSU fans who are just clinging to this notion that Alabama hasn't played anybody, and they haven't been tested in the fourth quarter. And maybe Alabama's schedule hasn't been great, but there's a lot of times you have teams that play schedules that aren't great, and they just they struggle with certain games because they're not very interested. Or they don't, they're not sharp every game. Alabama goes out and basically puts its foot on your throat the first half and crushes you. And I mean, they've been spot on almost every game as far as taking you out early. I mean, it's amazing that they averaged 38.7 points in the first half, which by the NCAA stats this week would rank them as the 20th best team in the nation scoring, just the first half alone. I truly believe that I think LSU is going to play a really good game, but I think they'll beat the point spread, but I still see LSU losing by 12 or 13 points. I think Alabama is looking forward to it. If this is a fourth quarter game, they're looking forward to having one. I think they're looking forward to a challenge for a change. But the whole thing is LSU's got to survive the first half without Devin White, arguably its best player,
yes,
linebacker.
For sure.
And they got to survive the first half with that. And of course, there's been a lot of backlash over targeting, not, but
right.
But the whole thing about this rule that I don't understand, it's not just the penalty. It's the fact that when you have targeting, the next game when you see out that half,
that hurts.
Yeah, that hurts. But they sequester you, that you can come out in the warm up in the first half, and then you have to go back to the locker room in the first half and watch the game.
That's brutal. They got to fix that. So are you gonna take the points in LSU's 14.5?
Yeah, I think Alabama wins by about 12.
Okay, all right.
I think. Most of the time when Nick plays LSU, he respects them so much that he
calls up the horses.
Late games. Yeah.
All right, one more real quick, and thank you for coming on the program. It's been a long time getting you on. I wish we had more time, but it's a short show today. So let's give me the Georgia-Kentucky game, which is really fascinating. Kentucky being the Cinderella story right now, 9-point underdog to the Bulldogs.
Yeah, I mean, Kentucky's done a great job this year. They haven't every year, last 2 or 3 or 4 years, they've gotten to like about 6-7 games and they start folding down the stretch. They haven't done that. They're physically and mentally tougher than they have been. That said, I think Georgia is used to playing in these big games. They've proven that over the last couple of years with Kirby. I think Georgia has a huge advantage at quarterback. Kentucky doesn't score very much. Their defense is good. I'm taking Georgia and the points.
All right, you're going Georgia. You're taking Georgia and giving the points, you mean?
Yeah. Georgia's going to.
You think they'll beat them by more than that?
Yeah, they'll win. And they'll probably win by a couple of touchdowns. I don't think Kentucky has enough scoring punch. I just don't.
Okay, well there you go. You got it from the horse's mouth. You're headed to a different game, right?
Yeah, I got Ole Miss and South Carolina, two teams who are desperately trying to find just to win down the stretch. You know, but anytime you're in anywhere in an SEC game on Saturday, it's a good thing. Anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And Muschamp is going to try to hold them to under an 80. So,
yeah, really.
Hey, Ron, it's great catching up to you, man. I really appreciate your time. I hope we can do this again. We got more time, and thanks for all the insight you bring. I'm so glad you're back in the world of newspapers. We need more Ron Higgins.
Well, I appreciate it, buddy. Thanks for having me.
All right, Ron Higgins. Didn't mean to hang up on him quite so soon. Now, just let me tell you real quick about Dan Hightower.
No one ever plans a car accident. Having a plan after you've been in one, however, can make a world of difference. Daniel L. Hightower has been fighting for accident victim justice in Ocala and statewide since 1976. After meeting with Dan and his team, you'll know your case matters, that you matter, and that Dan will fight hard to get you just results. If you've been severely injured through no fault of your own by a careless or reckless driver, you need Daniel L. Hightower.
This is kind of a laid-back day when we just sort of do our picks, and we don't have as many guests, and we have probably fewer listeners now, but many of you will catch this up on the Buddy Martin Show podcast this weekend and also later today. It's a quiet morning this morning on Friday on homecoming. I want to tell you about Grinders, store for men, which is around here. It's a well-known brand and store. And it's one we've been frequenting now since 1962. For those of us been around that long. If you haven't been to Grinders, it's a treat. They have all kinds of clothes for you, and especially younger and older generation. You can dress your grandfather there. You can dress your dad or you in college. You can go and get the right kind of thing. When I get back Grinders, you go see David DeSantis. He's got a look. There's a certain look to a Grinders man. And if you don't know how to dress, what matches, this is a place for you to go to get quality clothes, which they've been doing for a long time. So I encourage you to go to downtown Ocala, 405 East Silver Spring Boulevard. Check out their fall line. Stuff coming up are the long sleeve shirts, the beautiful jackets and stuff that they have there, suits if you need one. They can fix you up at Grinders. Downtown Ocala, 405 East Silver Springs Boulevard. Ocala, call 352-629-3195. Grinders for Men, Ocala. We'll be speaking with our friend Joe Williams here momentarily and get his take on things. That would be
Friday,
well. There you go. It's a Football Friday headquarters right there in Denver, Colorado. Answering his own phone. He used to have a secretary, but these are hard times. Joe Williams.
I've got one question for you.
You got a question for me, Joe?
Is it still a happy bunch of Gators?
I would say mixed, but mostly happy. Yes, very. And wouldn't you
happy?
be?
Okay.
After
that beat down?
Well, I wouldn't call it a beat down because this game was on the line, was still with under 10 minutes to play. So, one-score game. So anyway, but it was a game that was winnable. Gator fans,
winnable except for just one small thing.
So you've been waiting 6 weeks to say something about Felipe Franks, who you've trashed every time you're on the show, and I'm on your show. You trash him every single time, and I say to you, tell me somebody better. And by the way, things aren't going that great for the Buffs these days.
Well, you can say that again,
yeah.
But down here, when you go 6-5, 6-6, that's a lifetime contract.
Give you a parade, right?
It's called Way Out West. That's right. One of the biggest collapses in CU history. Buddy,
what happened there, Joe? I didn't see it. What happened in that game?
Well, I guess an Oregon State team that had lost 22 consecutive games on the road.
Oh, my goodness.
And they come into Folsom Field and overcome a 31-3 halftime. It was just, I tell you, I've been watching CU football now for 50-something years. I've never seen anything like it.
You warned me about them. I almost jumped on that bandwagon earlier this year after I saw them play pretty well. Now, of course, they lost their quarterback for a while. They lost their wide receiver, the coach's son, etc. So it does happen, but that's no excuse for blowing a lead like that. That's got to be the biggest collapse in history, right? Is that the biggest? Were they behind when that happened, or were they ahead?
Well, CU was ahead at the half, 31-3.
Yeah, 28 points, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought.
Not to Alabama.
No, I get it.
Not to
I
Texas.
get it, yes.
Not to Michigan.
Yeah.
To Oregon State.
Yeah, for sure. Well, moving on to this weekend, Joe. By the way, I got information on your card. I threatened to put the picture of you in the chicken suit up again, but I thought I'd give you a break on that because you haven't done that badly. But we're going to get some serious picking right now because this is November. Time to get serious about our football. And, we always like to say, as I said, the Masters doesn't start till the back nine on Sunday. Well, football season doesn't start till November. And here it is upon us these next 4 Saturdays. And looking back, you want to know how you did last week picking against me?
Well, you can go ahead and regurgitate it. I already know how I did. But
okay. Well, there's nothing wrong. You didn't do bad. You won money.
Yeah, I understand that.
But you didn't win enough. You won 400. I won 800. And my big bet came through for me on Kentucky. You had a lot of the right bets. You had them, but your big one. I think you dumped on the Gators. I believe jumped on the Gators. I recall. But
yeah, that's the last time out that one.
Yeah, there you go. Luckily, it was mythical money. All right, you ready for some games?
Let's go.
Any thoughts about? By the way, before we go, any thoughts about the rankings?
LSU, of course, this is a one-trick pony. They'll be out after they get hammered by Alabama, and they won't be heard from again. No team that I saw this. Where did I see this? I wish I could claim this for my own, but I saw this someplace that in the college football playoffs, every October when the first polls are released. No team who's come out ranked number 3 has ever made the Final Four. None of them.
Saw that.
And LSU won't either. So.
All right, so you kind of decided on LSU already, so it's a beatdown?
Yeah, it's a beatdown. And once again, they won't be there. What's interesting to me now, the key to this whole thing is Notre Dame. Is Notre Dame going to lose a game, or are they going to escape? Because they're in for sure, as we all know, just because of the television ratings. Whether they're how good they are or not doesn't matter. If they're undefeated, they'll be one of the 4. However, if they lose, and they're a one-loss Notre Dame, and you've got a team like Michigan that's coming on, and they've got one loss, guess who that was to? Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And Oklahoma, a one-loss team. There's going to be a lot of one-loss teams, I think, given the committee. And this will be just what we always pay for, buddy, is chaos. And we're going to have it.
That's right. There's going to be a lot of chaos coming up. We like it. Incidentally, I just got off the phone with Ron Higgins, who's the sports editor of the Clarion Ledger in Jackson, been covering SEC football for 100 years. He's worked in Memphis and in New Orleans, and he thinks that it'll be a close game, Alabama, because Nick Saban's affection for LSU, he thinks. That's his thinking. So he went the other way. So let me get your bet down here. So I can write it down correctly. You have a bankroll. By the way, I'm a little bit up on you. I don't know how much. I won 800, so I'm probably about 500 up on you right now. So it's time for you to take a plunge. You want to start with LSU, Alabama?
Yeah, let's take Bama. Give me for 1 long yard.
Is that 1,000?
Yes,
I don't know how to do that. That's big time talk. I'm just a penny.
Alabama, buddy. Look at it this way. Alabama's offense is the best offense that I've ever seen Saban have.
Yeah.
And he's had some good ones, but because of how good of a thrower that Tua is, that makes them a cut above. LSU's offense is okay, but let's face it, they huff and they puff and try to blow the house down.
They do.
Hell, they couldn't even score 3 touchdowns against Florida. All right.
Wait. You're getting personal now.
No, I'm not getting personal. I'm handicapping the game for you, for everybody. All right, LSU can't score. You have to, when you're in Alabama, up against Alabama, you're in the arms race. There's about 3 teams in the country that can do that. One of them's Oklahoma. All right, those are the kind of teams that have a chance against Alabama. Pedestrian offenses like Ed Orgeron is going to trot out there Saturday night. They got no shot, and the LSU defense will just get wore out. They're good, but they're going to be out there all the time because their offense ain't going to get first downs. Never mind touchdowns. So this is a beat down of the highest order. You can record it if you want to.
I got the chicken suit ready for next week.
And,
okay.
How many am I laying here? 14.
You're laying 14.5.
God, they can't make the number high enough, can they?
All right, $1,000. All right, so let's go right to Florida. Florida is 6-point favorite against Missouri. I'm taking Florida, wagering 300.
Okay, I'll take Missouri plus 6. I think Florida will be way let down after what happened last week. I'll take Missouri to cover the points. I don't really know about a winner. I'll take Missouri for 500.
They couldn't make a first down the second half last week, by the way. Okay, let's go to Kentucky, Georgia. I'm actually taking Kentucky in 9,
me too.
I'm playing $300 worth.
Yeah, I'll take him for 500. I'll take Kentucky plus 9 touchdown, Terry Wilson. I'll take him. The Gators are going to be a little deflated. I'm sorry, the Gators. The Bulldogs are going to be a little deflated.
Yeah, don't make that mistake ever of calling them Gators.
That's that big win over Florida. And Kentucky's at home. Their defense is for real. And I like that point. I like the points. I'm with you, buddy, for once we agree on something here.
That's probably not good for you.
Kentucky and Georgia playing for the right to get blown out by Alabama.
That is true now. That is absolutely true.
That is true.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
All right, so let's go a game that would have meant something earlier in the year, but doesn't mean a whole lot now. Auburn, Texas A&M at Auburn. Texas A&M gets 4 points.
These teams have trouble scoring points. I'll take the under. I like Auburn.
Well, I thought that was your Heisman Trophy winner playing quarterback for Auburn.
Yeah, you know what? I missed on him.
Yeah. Jarrett Stidham's not even making the
all. I don't know what happened to him. I might even take Felipe Franks over Jarrett Stidham.
But don't be dogging my boy Felipe now, okay?
Yeah, I might even take him.
Okay. Well, I don't think Felipe is going to win the Heisman either. But
I got Texas A&M plus the points.
Okay.
Texas A&M plus the points, just a measly $100.
Measly 100.
But I like the under 49 for 500.
Oh, you're playing over under. We don't have that feature on our program.
Okay, all right.
So, yeah. So let me make sure I got this right. Alabama for Joe, Missouri for Joe,
better
Kentucky.
be Alabama for Buddy. You know what's good.
Actually, it is. But no, it is. And then you've got Kentucky for 5, and then you've got who'd you say taking Alabama? I mean Auburn and Texas A&M.
I'll tell you, just $100 on Texas A&M plus 4 if we're picking against the number.
Hey, you're taking.
I don't like that.
You're taking A&M.
Yeah, if you make me, yeah.
All right, and how much you're playing? 100.
100, yeah.
All right, final one I got on my card today. Oklahoma and Nebraska. I know how you love to hate Nebraska. They get 17.5 points against a team that's struggling now, Ohio State.
Yeah, I think Ohio State is going to pound Nebraska. Ohio State's had a week to think about what happened at Purdue. Nebraska is going on the road to Columbus. I think Ohio State will come out and probably play their best game of the year, I would say right now. So
how much?
I like Ohio State for 300.
300. All right, Joe Williams has got Ohio State. He's got Texas A&M. He's got Kentucky. He's got Alabama, and he's got Missouri with the points, but he thinks Florida might win the game.
I don't know if Florida will, but I just take the points. I don't have a particularly strong feeling. I think the Gators will be. It's just college football is a game of emotion. They spent everything they had against Georgia.
Show a little respect,
Missouri's
Joe, for a team that's ranked 11th in the country, okay?
Missouri's coming in with an NFL quarterback with an NFL arm.
Yeah,
and
who couldn't get a first down last week. Other than that, he's going to find.
I understand that, but this week it's the deflated Gators.
You're just going to find a negative spin on this. I'm about ready to put that chicken soup picture up on the screen any second right now.
Yeah, I figure if I keep pecking away, it'll get up there.
I've got that picture. I will put it all over America if you do this to me. All right. Well, Joe, have a good weekend. Enjoy the football. We don't have many Saturdays left, big boy. We don't have many Saturdays
exactly
left.
Right. And the folks here in Denver are looking forward to hearing you today on our show out here in Denver.
A new time.
At 3:30 Eastern Standard Time.
And I'm looking forward to doing it with you. I always do. I always love doing. Joe, thanks for coming on. Okay. I'll talk to you on your show. The Joe Williams Show. Mile High City, America's top sports talk show hosts. At least Denver's, I think. Anyway, all right, so let me just tell you about a couple things, and we're going to go get the Iron Duke. Talk to him a little bit, and let's discuss this right here. And that would be, well, we don't want to do that. That would be my bank, and it should be yours, Center State Bank, who are centered on community and customer service. If you are not aware of what's going on there with Center State, you should, because number one, they're pretty good in the banking business, I'd say. I tend to forget about it sometimes because they are so involved in the community, and I forget they also are in the bank. Because that beautiful building, which I love so much, the second floor, I've talked about it a lot. You can actually call them and try to schedule it for special events if you would like. Their telephone number is 352-368-6800. Also, if you want to open up a new account, savings, whatever, that's your place to go. They're all over Florida, 82 locations, probably more than that by now, in 30 Florida counties. And they pride themselves on core values like being driven by the local markets. They're take a long-term view of finances, long-term horizon. They're big on relationship banking and faith and family, and they also offer a world-class service. Center State Bank, you want to check them out, go online at centerstatebank.com. Here in Ocala, this beautiful building is located on Silver Springs Boulevard. You can go online, check it out, Center State Bank, and then get your location. Meanwhile, as I say, if you'd like to call them here in Ocala, 352-368-6800. Center State Bank, centered on community and customer service. All right, we got about 25 to go here on this Football Friday. Thanks for joining us. I know that some of you are busy on Friday and you don't have a chance to tune in. That's okay. We get that. We want to get this show done, so it'll be up here on the site. By the way, the podcast comes out usually about a day after. go to iTunes and check it out, the Buddy Martin Show. We're starting to get a lot of traction there. A lot of people are listening to it now. And if you can't always watch, and then of course it stays here on Facebook. And for you, if you want to come back and you want to pick it up and listen to it later or watch it, you can do that. I'm going to go out to the telephone lines now. Well, actually, I'm going to go to Skype and see if Franz Beard is going to pick up the phone here, and we'll check with him. But first, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Mark's Prime. I show this food at night. It really makes me hungry. It's going to start making me hungry tonight. I think we might be going there tonight, but I'm not sure. Hope we would. Love to show the food because it's beautiful. It's also very good. And if you have not tried Mark's, well, you've been missing it. Mark's Prime Steakhouse and Seafood, located in Ocala and Gainesville. They have terrific service, including they have complimentary valet. If the weather's bad and you don't want to put up with that, you can get them to take your car, park it, and go pick it up for you. It really is nice to have when you need it. Mark's Prime, Ocala and Gainesville. They offer terrific food, terrific service. They like to have a unique dining experience, and they like to say they want to please your palate and soothe your soul. Go online at Mark's Prime Steakhouse.com and check out some of their food they've got there. Or call them, by the way, in Ocala, 352-402-0097. In Gainesville, 352-336-0077. If you inquire about their gift cards, makes a great holiday gift. It's really one of the best restaurants I've eaten in anywhere, and I think you should try it. Mark's Prime Steakhouse and Seafood. Check out their wonderful dining experience. You'll be glad you did. Tell them Buddy sent you, okay? All right, so one more thing before we get a hold of our friend Franz. RedStar Medical Research, a company that is very involved in our community. Number one, they care for our health. They're always trying to make it better. And they do that through clinical research trials. They have them there. They've been having these high-quality patient-centered studies now for quite some time. And since 1968, they've probably have done 700 clinical trials. And all the information and data they get is sent off to their prominent pharmaceutical and biomedical companies throughout the industry, and that helps us here knowing how to treat such diseases as Alzheimer's, psoriasis, osteoarthritis, migraine headaches, fibromyalgia, along with other conditions that affect us. You can take part in these, by the way, if you'd like to, by calling 352-629-5800. They'll give you the information there about how to take part in them. And I want to mention also that this is this week's Scott Brantley Award weekly winner, the RenStar Star of the Week. Brian Maurer had a fantastic game and a fantastic season, breaking all kind of records. He's a Tennessee commit, and we love the fact that RenStar sponsors this Player of the Week, RenStar Star of the Week. More coming on the Scott Brantley Trophy and award. Meanwhile, you can go on the RenStar Medical Research and find out what they mean when they say seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. This is the Scott Brantley Award I told you about. And you'll want to check that out. I'll have more on that coming up. Some exciting plans about that. You're going to love when you hear about it. Let's see. Franz is saying what time? And Franz, that would be right now. We're going to call you and check in with the Iron Duke and see what he's got going on there. Franz Beard, who writes an article for us every week. A couple of them. If you haven't been seeing it, you're missing out, because the Iron Duke's been writing some really good stuff, both on BuddyMartinMedia.com, also on Buddy Martin's show page, Gator Nation Kingdom. He's everywhere. Well, he's the Iron Duke, that's why, and he joins the program on a Football Friday. Francis, as you just wrote that, I was just saying we're about to call Franz Beard right now. So good evening to you on a good afternoon. Good morning to you. I got to get it right on a Football Friday.
Well, you covered all the bases: evening, morning, afternoon.
Got it all.
Yeah, there's you didn't let an opportunity pass.
Absolutely. By the way, I have a question I've been keeping up on the screen just for you. Chris DeCubulis, Dr. DeCubulis, he got his doctorate. You know Chris, CD Farms, of course, has posted something which I was going to let you answer. It says, in your opinion, are the Gators still thinking about Georgia, or do you think they're focused on Missouri? I know homecoming has its own distractions. What's your thought, Franz?
I think Mullen has been there and done that, and he knows how to get a team that has had a bad loss to get it out of their minds. This is why I go back to the 9 years he spent at Mississippi State. He learned how to be a head coach, learned how to win, learned how to lose, learned how to get his team up and motivated, etc., like that. McElwain had no clue about that, hadn't done it enough as a head coach. Will Muschamp was still learning on the job. Urban was great at it. Spurrier was great at it. Zook had a problem with it. And these guys that don't have the head coaching experience, it's a problem for them. The guys like Mullen who do it, they're pros at it. Florida's going to be ready.
Good answer. I'm sure that Dr. DeCumas appreciates that.
We can start calling him Doc now.
That's right, Doc. If you haven't seen the video of him on Facebook playing Johnny Cash, that boy can pick a guitar now. I'm telling you what. That's good stuff. You know, I'm an old bluegrass guy, and I know a little bit about picking. You know, I can't pick like that, but it's something that you ought to go on Facebook and look it up under Chris DeCumas.
I was listening to the Punch Brothers just last night.
Yeah, okay. There you go.
You know, what we call contemporary classical bluegrass. It's different, but it's good bluegrass, just the same.
Yeah, it's a fusion music of jazz and whatever, which I think I'm kind of a hardcore bluegrass guy. I'm Ralph Stanley in that bunch, but that's another story.
Well, I also like the Avett Brothers an awful lot.
Yeah. Okay, here's the deal. Len Tyndall, who's one of our more astute listeners and our assistant chief knight of Gator Nation Kingdom, points out a very important thing here. He says a 4:00 kickoff on homecoming is much better than a noon kickoff. Agree?
Oh, much better. I don't like noon kickoffs at any time. I know that, I think that I think the team needs that extra time that time in the morning. They get up and they're at the hotel, and we've been to the hotels, and we know how they go to their meeting rooms and they break things down and everything like this. I find that 12 noon kickoffs there's far, far greater distractions during a 12 noon kickoff. And even with this being homecoming, it's a football game day, and these guys have a routine. And I don't have I have no thought that they will be unprepared in any way.
All right, so let's talk about Felipe for a second. I made this I made this comment several times during the week after you were on with me Monday, and looking at the really good teams, the playoff teams, and they have one common theme. If you look at Clemson and you look at Alabama and you look at Georgia, and to a lesser degree LSU, but the top-ranked teams all have one common analytic. They have a really good quarterback. Not just good, but a really good quarterback. And I raised this question, or I guess it was Mark Long I raised it with, and I'm not in favor of this, but I bring it up because if you study analytics, and by the way, I don't like them, but I'm not a numbers guy, but if you do, and you say, okay, the analytics say this, okay, and you have to have this many passes, this length, whatever, this completion, they crunch all these numbers, and you say, okay, the quarterback position has to be a position of strength, and you look at Tua and you say, well, that's the model. Okay, and now you start modeling. You look at it and say, "What does Notre Dame do? They upgraded their quarterback, right? What did Georgia do? Georgia changed their quarterback. You know, what did LSU? They changed their quarterback, and even Alabama changed their quarterback. You know where I'm going with this. So now, if you're strictly a numbers guy and you say, look, everything points to the fact that you need a change in the quarterback position. If you're not getting production of it, how do you deal with Florida's? And that is a question that's hard to answer. I'll tell you right now, I'm not in favor of a change, but I'm asking you, strictly, objectively, is that something that Florida eventually is going to have to address?
Yeah, in 2019. But this is 2018. And what is that old saying that Dan Jenkins had in his book? You dance with the one that brung you. And that's what Florida's got to do. Felipe has his good moments, has his bad moments. The critical thing for Felipe is this. He's got to get off to a really good start. He has a hard time shaking off a bad start. I think that the overthrow of Van Jefferson and then the underthrow, it was again of Van Jefferson, and it resulted in a pick last week. And I think his head went off to Somalia or someplace like that for a while afterward. It took him a long time to get his head back in the game, get his confidence back, etc., like that. This is the difference between a Tua and a Felipe. Tua can make a bad throw. Now, he doesn't have any interceptions, but he can make a bad throw and an overthrow. And he's got short-term memory. I mean, it's gone. He's already thinking of the next pass. And I don't think I think this is what separates Felipe, who has great arm talent, who has great physical talent. I think this is what separates him from being an upper-tier quarterback. The great quarterbacks, the ones who are in the upper tier, they forget that bad play, and they've already moved on to the next one. The moment that ball is released, they're already thinking of the next play.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I've talked to 3 people who are around Frank's a good bit. None of them are coaches. And they all said the one trait he has got is the ability to forget and be resilient. That's what they claim he's got. Now, I don't know that. I've not seen it myself. I'm just saying that's one position.
But I know I've heard people say that too, buddy, but we've seen him make, like in the Kentucky game. I think he has to make that first good. I think once he's made that first good pass, he's good the rest of the game, but until he gets that, if he starts out bad, I think it takes him a while to get cranked up. It's kind of like metabolism. So he needs a couple of, just like we need to eat a couple of the right things to get our metabolism going the right way in the day. I think Felipe needs a couple of good passes to get his passing metabolism going the right way.
Okay, that's a good point. Now let me read you a question from Steve Kreider, the Rocky Mountain Gator Club out in Denver, a friend of mine. He brings this point up. Do the Gators have a tight end or running back out of the backfield that's easy to throw to for Franks and can make yards on first down and also get the third when they need it? We saw a trick play in the tight end versus LSU, and that's it, right or wrong here. That's the question. Does he have an easy throw? I think he's made some of those myself. I think they've got several. Getting the ball to Tony would certainly help more often. But what is your thing? Do you think he needs some easy throws?
Oh, I definitely think they've got to get him some easy throws. And I'll tell you the guy that I would like to see more involved in the passing game, and that is LaMichael Perrine. He is a very, very good receiver. And as we are seeing, once he gets an open field, he is a very underrated open field guy. We think of him as a tough guy that breaks tackles and gets yards after the first contact. But he really does have good open field ability. He may not have that burst to separate and go 80 yards, like a Jordan Scarlett has a burst or something like that. But he's a good open field guy. He can make some guys miss. He can get some yards. I would like to see him more involved in the passing game. And you and I have talked for weeks that we think Kadarius Toney needs more touches in a game. I'd like to see him have the ball in his hands at least 7 or 8 times every ball game.
Yeah, and France, one of the models that they can dust off. This was a brilliant game planning, and we kind of knew they'd have to do it. Because Mississippi State, why do you go into the teeth of that defensive line? We got a couple of number 1 draft picks, and they did a brilliant job of the perimeter, the bubble screens, and getting the ball to the speed on the outside. That's an attack that really worked well there, and one of which I'm sure we'll see again. So that's what we're talking about. Those were easy throws. Those were all little 2-yard pops, here and there, and give it to him and with a blocker in the open field, which I think is what we're talking about. So I think you're okay on there. I think one of the things I saw lacking in the Georgia game was they tried hard. They could not get the explosive play. That's the thing. As you say, he had a guy open and he overthrew him. Another time he got a guy open and he threw an interception. The explosive play. The running backs are doing the brunt of the work. I mean, those guys are doing some great, making some. Go back and look at that 15-yard run a couple of weeks ago by Georgia Scarlett down to the one. That was Georgia, wasn't it? And that was just all want to. And he made a tremendous move, took a couple of blockers. So the running backs are playing exceptionally good. I'd like to see Dameon Pierce get a little better at pass blocking, get a little better at some things. He's got speed. They can use him. And my goodness, they have 17 receivers. I mean, they literally have. He has 19 different people that call balls, okay? So they've got the people to get the ball to. The question is, can he get the ball to them? Which brings it back to the quarterback position, which brings us back to the upgrade question. I am not in favor of going and getting the former Clemson quarterback and bringing him in. That's something we talked about last night. Because that's what the trend is now. Because that affects the chemistry of your quarterback room, although I don't like that term. That is true. That sends the wrong message to Jalen Jones, to Emory Jones, and it messes up everything in your system. So I can't see that as a viable option, in terms of going back out and getting him. But I do think there's something you have to think about and talk about and be willing to do if it helps your football team. But to me, that's not a positive step.
Florida needs to go with Jones squared. Emory and Jalen. Jalen Jones is putting up just ridiculous numbers at Henrico High School in Richmond. And then we saw Emory. He's got a shiftiness to him as a runner. He's a decisive runner. I don't know about you, but I was very, very impressed by the way he hung in the pocket and made that deep throw. And we talk about plays that were game changers. If that goes as a touchdown and not a pass interference call, holy cow, that whole ball game could have been a different outcome. And we would certainly be singing the praises of Emory Jones this week, and probably there would be a tremendous amount of second guessing. The fact that there was a pass interference call on there kind of overshadows the fact that we saw the kids got the arm and could make the throws like that. That was the touch on that throw was just unbelievable.
Yes, it was. That showed me something. Finally, I know he can throw the ball. I've seen enough to know he can throw it. I wondered. Franz, you ready to do some picking?
Yeah, I'm ready.
How you doing this year on your picks, by the way?
Well, I didn't do too well last week because I picked Florida, but most of the other ones I'm pretty good.
A lot of us went down with that one.
Yep. I had, I think I've been doing pretty well on the picks for the most part.
By the way, I'm not sure you can see it in the background, but I got Vern Lundquist's new book over here on the side right here, play-by-play. I got a chance to see Vern up in Jacksonville, and looking forward to reading that book. I just came in on Amazon, and I got Tebow's book here.
Can I say something about Vern beforehand?
Sure.
We had some people online who just made some ridiculous comments about Vern. I got to tell you something. You and I both know Vern. You've known him certainly a lot longer than I have. But talk about a guy with a heart of gold who has done more to help more people in the media business. People come in and they say, "Gee, Vern, I'm worried about my job," or whatever. Good old Vern goes out and looks for people to try to help him get a new job and things like that. What a heart of gold that guy has. He's a great guy, and certainly one of the real characters that's ever been in the media business.
Well, I can tell you a couple of quick stories on Vern. First of all, he and Terry Bradshaw did TV together, and how I met Terry, and I knew him, but how I really got to be friends with him. CBS called me in Denver. Joe Williams and I were doing a radio show and said, "We've got our team coming to Denver to do to the Bronco game. Do you want to have them on your show?" We said, "Sure." So they'll come by the station. Well, great. Terry Bradshaw and Vern Lundquist. So they came by the station that day. Just so happened we were having some kind of celebration. I don't remember what it was. The station manager had some Long Island iced tea or something or whatever. So they came in for a 15-minute segment. Joe and I, and we had the best time, and 15 minutes turned into an hour and 20 minutes. We had Bradshaw and Vern on, and it was hilarious. It was a great show. And off that show, I then called Terry and did a column about him, and then ultimately wound up writing his book, as you know. But Vern also was the guy who inducted Terry Bradshaw to the Hall of Fame. You know that?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, so he did his induction. So Vern's retired now. When I saw him on Saturday, we talked about it, and he and David Moulton are good friends, and Tony Barnhart was there, and we're chatting. And I said, Vern, I told you when you said CBS was going to take you off the NFL and give you college football, and you said you were worried about it, you were nervous about it, and what did I say to you? This will be the best move you ever made in your TV career. He said, boy, were you right about that. And, of course, we know now because when you go through these years, and by the way, friends, I'll tell you this now, I am having conversations with the SEC. We got a call back this week. They're interested in talking about the Skywriters Tour documentary, which will be really cool if that comes about. So, anyway, so Vern, I said to Vern, what's cool about it is with the rise of the SEC, and you and I have seen that, the domination they had, and you go through the files forevermore, and those calls will be the voice of Vern Lundquist. All those big games, Alabama, Florida, will have the Vern Lundquist golden pipes on it. So that's a good thing. I like that.
And let me put it this way. The greatest Masters moment of all, and Vern had just one word, yes. What a call at the Masters.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, that call, of course, of Tiger at 16 was famous. I said, you've been around more big moments and big things. I'm interested to see what the book has to say. Let's pick some games. All right, okay. Let's start with the Kentucky Georgia. Georgia is a 9-point favorite. Can they repeat what they did last week? Is Kentucky going to be stubborn to beat at home? Can Jake Fromm get it cranked up and get it going? You think Kentucky in 9 is enough?
Well, I think that the game is going to be closer than 9 points. I see Georgia winning simply because I don't know that Terry Wilson can make throws against Georgia. And he really couldn't make throws against Florida either. But
he got one big one on Brad's, on the safety, yeah.
But, I don't think he can make the throws that he's going to have to make. And I think as a result of that, Georgia will pull it out, but it's going to be close.
Yeah, it was Brad Stewart that he beat against Florida. All right, so you're going Kentucky plus 9, but Georgia to win the game, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's take our friend Urban, who's going through a lot right now. How about DJ Durkin? You wrote about that in a column. By the way, Francis' column is online now on the Facebook page or on BuddyMartinMedia.com. Good job. Ohio State is a 17.5-point favorite over Nebraska, woeful Nebraska, who finally is in the win column. Which way are you going to go with the 17.5, friends?
Oh, Ohio State will win that one by 30 or more.
All right. I picked that earlier. I also took Ohio State, and I also took Kentucky. All right. A game that should have been a lot more and was going to mean a lot more, but isn't mean as much as we thought it would. Auburn, Texas A&M favored by 4 at Auburn.
Been going back and forth with this one because both these teams are sort of at a crossroads. The team that loses is going to go in a funk, and I got a feeling that Jimbo's going to win on the road.
Okay.
I like Texas A&M to win the game, maybe by as much as a touchdown.
It's going to be a lot of unhappy people at Auburn. Already is. 2 more to go. The big one in Baton Rouge. One where people are saying, is LSU for real or is that just a facade? You get 14.5 points to take LSU against the mighty Crimson Tide. You willing?
Yep, I am. I think there's only 2 teams in the country that are capable of hanging with Alabama. One of them is Clemson, and the other one is the Alabama second unit on both sides of the ball.
All right, and finally, it's homecoming, and these Gators have a lot at stake here. These 4 wins mean everything to this program right now. They got to win them all, and starting with Missouri, Drew Lock, it can be hot, Drew Lock can be cold. If he gets hot against his secondary, although C.J. Henderson is back, it could spell trouble. Florida's favored by 6 points. What do you think?
I like Florida to win and cover. I like Florida something like 23-14. I think that Mullen's going to play it very close to the vest. I think it's going to be a lot of ground and pound, because I think one of the things that Dan is going to do is he's going to play defense with his offense, and a lot of running plays, move the chains, keep the ball out of the hands of Drew Lock. Make sure you get 2 or 3 first downs every single time you have the ball, and that puts Tommy Townsend in position to flip the field and Florida to win the field position game. I like Florida. Like I said, I like them by something like 23-14.
He's the Iron Duke. He's Franz Beard. You can read him here. You can see him here. And always good to have Franz on Football Friday. And Franz, we'll talk to you Monday night, where we'll do the postmortems on Florida, Missouri, and see where we go from here.
All righty. Thanks a lot,
All right,
buddy.
thanks, Franz Beard. He's a guy we love to have on the program, obviously, because he brings a lot. And we're lucky to have him. Appreciate it very much. All right, we're going to wrap this thing up here and see if we can get back to the business of well, let's see if we can get it back. Okay, let's see. We want to do this. We'll just go ahead and say goodbye. But thanks for watching and listening. Have a good weekend at homecoming if you're going. Be careful out there when you're driving. And we'll be back on Monday night with Franz and the gang. Graham will be here. We'll have a chance to get the numbers and the quotes and the information. And we're looking forward to that time. So hope you'll enjoy your time. That's all our picks for the weekend, and that's all the time we have. Enjoy your Football Friday, and talk to you later.